Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines. My guest is the Executive Director of Crime Stoppers, Sid Newman. Sid's going to talk to us about the purpose of Crime Stoppers. Bottom line, solve crimes and help keep our community safe. He's going to tell us how you can give a tip without anybody knowing who you are about a criminal or a crime and get paid for it because it's so valuable to our community. So join us on the next Legal Lines with the Executive Director of Crime Stoppers, Sid Newman.
It's time now for Legal Lines Tips with your host, Locke Meredith.
Hello, I'm Locke Meredith with a Legal Lines tip for you. If you have to hire a lawyer, and I hope you don't, but if you do, hire a lawyer that you like, that you trust, and who specializes in your area of need. In these days, with all the laws we have, lawyers for the most part now specialize. They specialize in contracts, defense, business, personal injury, all kinds of areas of the law. So when you interview with a lawyer, ask him, does he specialize in the area of your need? Has he tried the cases? Has he been successful? And of course, how does he charge you? Is his fee hourly? Is it a percentage of the case if he recovers? What exactly does he charge? So my Legal Lines tip from me, Locke Meredith, to you is, if you have to hire a lawyer, hire one you like, you trust, and who specializes in your area of need.
This has been Legal Lines Tips with your host, Locke Meredith.
Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have on the show for the very first time Sid Newman. He is the Executive Director of Crime Stoppers. Sid, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank
I really appreciate it. You know, I understand that you were in law enforcement for 30 years, but you retired, and Crime Stoppers is your baby here in the surrounding parishes in East Baton Rouge Parish. Explain to the folks.
Well, we started in 1982. 1982, crime was the #1 issue in the community.
God, not a whole lot's changed.
Not a whole lot, but members of the Chamber of Commerce had actually heard of a program out of a convention in Florida, of a program that was established in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to address crime, utilizing the media, the concerned citizens and the police coming together to address that crime issue.
Yeah, I love your mission statement. It's basically, the mission is to solve crimes and to make this area safe for families.
Safe for everybody. 30, 40 years ago, crime was an isolated issue, but it's too big. It's not just a police problem anymore, it's a social.
Well, and it's overwhelming law enforcement, frankly. Instead of being proactive, they're reactive. They're going out putting out fires instead of being able to proactively address issues. So it's fascinating because you know, it's been around since '72, and yet your particular organization has received numerous awards. Explain the organization. It's not part of government.
Well, it's not. What we learned was the success of the program. First of all, we're a non-profit, privately owned organization made up of concerned citizens within the community that are concerned about the crime issue. They want to live in a safer environment. We do have government officials on our board, but they don't have any voting privileges. They kind of tell us what's going on in the community and maybe some issues that we need to be concerned with. And it works very well.
And so the goal, as we stated, was to solve crime. It empowers people in our community, frankly, to become the eyes and ears of law enforcement. And I've had on every law enforcement top head that we have here in the surrounding area, both at the local and state level. And they need those eyes and ears, and this empowers individuals to get the right information about crime and criminals to the right people. Explain how.
Exactly. Being an investigator, my former career, you would pull up to a crime scene and you knew people had information that could solve that, but for whatever the reason, either fear of retaliation or apathy, they just didn't get involved. So what Crime Stoppers does is it addresses those two issues. The fear of retaliation, you will and can remain anonymous.
And we're talking about retaliation by the person that you report on.
Right.
The criminal that you're saying, hey, I know what they did and where they are.
Or a family member, that they can report that information to Crime Stoppers 100% anonymously.
Meaning, y'all don't know who they are. You got no names, no way to track them, and you don't want to know who
We
they
don't
are.
want to know who they are. We guarantee we're not trap and tracing their telephone. We don't want to know because we get called into court, and the first thing the defense attorney asks us, who called you? And we tell them we don't know, and then they look at the judge and we have to explain that we don't know, that when we call, we tell them we don't want to know your name, we do want to know your information, and once you give us that information, we're then going to assign you a code number, and it's your responsibility to stay in touch with us.
And it's important for folks to know when they provide that information, and y'all don't have a name, don't know who they are, they will never have to testify in court. They're not going to have to give depositions or give police statements, nothing.
There's no name, there's no ID, and there's no court when you contact
And
Crime
that's by
Stoppers.
federal law, as I understand.
Well, there is laws. We have a state statute that gives us those protection. We do have laws that protect privileged communications to our certified Crime Stoppers organization.
And y'all are certified by both Sheriff Sid
Gotro,
Sid Gotro and the Chief, right?
Chief Carl Diabity. We do that annually, and in all the parishes that we're responsible for. And the Greater Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers is basically responsible for 8 parishes: East and West Baton Rouge, East and West Feliciana, Livingston, Ascension, Iberville, and Point Capee.
Explain to the folks, because what we haven't talked about is if they call in with this information, because that information about a criminal and a crime is so valuable to our community and their neighbors and themselves, money is actually paid to those persons.
And Lockie, that's where the apathy comes in, because a lot of times people don't want to get involved. So that's that incentive. The anonymity doesn't help. The incentive of the cash reward may make them pick up the phone and call. And yes, we do offer cash rewards on arrest and indictment, recovery of stolen property, confiscation of illegal narcotics, or grand jury indictment against an individual.
And again, you know, people are like, well, how do I get money and remain anonymous and nobody knows who I am? And we'll talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that the ranges of money depends on whether it's against the crime involves a person or property, narcotics.
The severity of the crime. We pay a minimum of $50 and we pay up to $5,000, again depending on the severity of the crime. Our wanted fugitive section is extremely successful. We start off at $250.
And define a fugitive for folks.
A fugitive is an individual that law enforcement knows or has an active warrant for their arrest, but they just don't know where they can be found, or they're in hiding. And what we do is we feature that individual either on television, in the paper, on a digital billboard, or a radio spot, and ask the concerned citizens, if you know the whereabouts of this individual, all you have to do is contact us and you will earn a cash reward.
And again, nobody's going to know who you are.
All
the bank's not going to know. It's in an envelope with a code on it, and that's that.
Well, that's the side that we think that has been very beneficial, is how we pay those rewards. Let's just say that your information did prove to be correct and we're ready to pay a reward. We pay rewards once a month, and we pay them at a drive-through window of a particular bank in the Baton Rouge area through that code number. So we'll tell that caller that you have to stay in touch with us, and when they call us back, we're going to ask them their code number and then ask them what they initially called us about. Once we're satisfied, and this is the only way that we can verify.
Because you don't know who they are.
Don't know.
You got to say, what did you tell us?
What did you call us about originally? And a lot of times people can't answer that, so we don't have a conversation. But those that can will say, okay, we're ready to make a payoff. And we'll tell them the day that we're going to make the payoff and the location. And all they have to do is write on a piece of paper their Crime Stoppers code number, the words Crime Stoppers, and a code word. Then we give them the directions of where that bank is located and tell them that you can only receive your reward through the drive-through window, the furthest window that is open at the time that you go to this bank. We don't want you going into the bank because we don't know who you are. Friend or relative may work at the bank or use the same bank.
And they probably don't want to go in the bank.
No, they don't. They don't. Again, we're trying to protect the identity of that person who's just solved a case. So they go to the furthest one that is open, they submit that piece of paper, goes into the bank, and then we send them an envelope with cash money, $50 up to $5,000 out. There's no name, there's no ID, and there's no code.
Fantastic. All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with my guest Sid Newman of Crime Stoppers. We'll be right back.
It's time now for Legal Lines Tips with your host, Locke Meredith.
Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I have a legal lines tip for you. Remember, knowledge is power. And I want you to know if you're injured, Louisiana law grants you a variety of claims to make sure you're fully compensated. It's generally chopped up into several categories, the first being general damages. That's going to compensate you for your mental and physical pain and suffering, your scarring, disability, functional limitations, your loss of enjoyment of life. Also, it will compensate your family, frankly, for your loss of affection. It's called loss of consortium claim. Next category is specific damages. Those would be, say, for example, past and future lost wages, past and future medical expenses. You also have a claim sometimes for what's called punishment damages or punitive damages, typically only available when you're injured by a drunk party. Finally, you're entitled to legal interest from the date you file your lawsuit until you're paid and court costs. So my legal lines tip to you from me, Locke Meredith. Make sure you know what your claims are.
This has been Legal Lines Tips with your host, Locke Meredith.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. I'm very pleased to have on the show today the Executive Director, Sid Newman, for Crime Stoppers. Sid, thanks again, and let's dive back in. So we've discussed that folks, if they report a crime or a criminal that results in an arrest or other events successfully, they get cash. So let's tell folks what actually has to happen. So they call in, they report a crime or where a criminal is. What happens?
Okay, so who's eligible for reward? When we get that tip information, we're going to pass it on to the agency that's responsible for that investigation.
Law enforcement agency.
Exactly, because technically, I'm not law enforcement. We're a privately owned organization. Even though our office is located at State Police Headquarters and we have like 62 law enforcement agents right there, all we do is we get that tip information, we go across the hall, or we call the agent and say, hey, is this your jurisdiction? Do you want to follow up on this?
And that's the part where we're talking about the eyes and ears and getting the information to the right people. I mean, it's like that.
Exactly. It's not the 700 city police officers you have, it's the population in the city of Baton Rouge that now can help prevent crime.
And it's literally going to the folks at the top.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's amazing. So what has to happen? So they get the information. What has to happen for that person, that tip individual, to get the money?
Well, let's just say it's a fugitive that we're looking for. They tell us where that person could be located. We send an agent out. They make an apprehension. That caller is ready to receive a cash reward.
So all they have to do is arrest them.
That's it, on something like that.
Don't have to be convicted. None of this stuff requires conviction.
We do not worry about conviction. We have a 98% conviction rate. And the reason we don't worry about that is because of the high conviction rate at the end, but a lot of times these cases may take several years before they go to court. Now this person that was a concerned citizen that called us, they're going to have to wait that long? No, we don't think so. Because with the 98% conviction rate, if we get an arrest and an indictment, we recover some stolen property, confiscate some illegal narcotics, we're ready to pay that person a cash reward, and we do that once a month.
So the bottom line is, it does not have to go through the court system to get the money. In fact, that's not required at all. You don't have to go through the court system except for one instance. So if they arrest the person, if it's a certain kind of crime, they arrest the person, they're now entitled to that money. If it relates to drugs and narcotics that they've identified location or actually seized, they're now entitled to that money. And if property was stolen and they're able to say that's where it is and the officers get the property, they're entitled to money. So the only time that the court system's ever involved is if it's a murder. Explain that to folks.
Well, because we're paying such high rewards, an individual homicide, and this is horrible to put a value on someone's life, but we know that we can sustain these rewards. An individual homicide, we pay up to $2,500. If the person is responsible for killing more than one person, we pay up to $5,000. And we say up to because we may get multiple calls on the same individual, but one person is adding more information than the other one. If it's the same information, then the first person to call gets the full amount.
Got it.
If it's multiple calls, then we have to weigh the value of that information. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a 50-50 split. It could be
based on the value of the info.
Exactly.
Excellent. And so they have to, for that reward to be paid for a murder or a person who's involved in multiple murders, there has to be a grand jury indictment. And all that is basically the prosecutor who gets the case presents his evidence to the grand jury, and it's a one-sided presentation. It's frankly not difficult usually to get a grand jury to indict a criminal, so that's not a big hurdle to cross.
And it's not a long length of time for that caller to wait either, because again, we're concerned about the identity of the caller to make sure that they will remain anonymous, and we want to thank them by paying them a cash reward for picking up the phone and making that
That's
call.
right. And probably saving a bunch of lives in the long run.
Future crimes.
That's right. So let's shift gears a little bit. So now folks want to know, how can I make a tip? Well, there's all kinds of ways.
There's actually 4 different ways, but we'll talk about 3. First of all, is to call in the 344 stop number.
And we're going to have a banner running on the show. I'm sure folks are seeing it right now that are going to give these ways of making the tip.
Great. 344 stop or 7867. That's where you call. There's no trap and trace. There's no telephone ID. We don't want to know who you are. The other way is you can go to our website, crimestoppersbr.com. Real informative website which tells you fugitives, crime of the weeks, unsolved crime of the weeks. It tells you all about the program, how it's run, how it functions. Also in there they have a tip form to which you hit it, it drops down screen and you fill in the information and you're automatically assigned a code number when you hit send. The third method, which a lot of the younger generation, I should say, enjoy, is texting.
Right.
I'm not big on texting, but a lot of people rather text than talk. But you go to CS225, push a message to crimes, and you punch out crimes, which is 274637, and then you put CS225 in your message. When you hit send, within 10 to 15 seconds, you're going to get a drop screen that gives you your code number. And then you put in all your information, and that way we can stay in touch with you back and forth.
And I've actually done that myself this morning. I tried to see how it worked. And so in the to field where you're going to text, and it says to, you put in the numbers, but it's basically spelling crime.
Yeah.
And then in the message, when you're getting ready to text or dictate your message, before you dictate that message, you need to put CS for Crime Stoppers,
right,
and then the area code of the area, 225. So it's CS225, and then type away the information, the tip that you want to send, hit send, and you're going to get back, I mean immediately,
it's quick,
a response that gives you an alias code number saying, we don't know who you are, and we don't want to know who you are, you're safe. And that's how you move forward.
That's it. And please, we try to encourage people when we receive calls, texts, or web, don't share your code number with anybody because we don't know who you are. Don't share that information with anybody. This is the only way we can guarantee your anonymity. Don't share that information.
Because frankly, and I think you've indicated this, there are times where folks will then try and use that information that they've gotten and try and get the reward instead of the folk who actually made the tip.
Exactly.
So it's again a protection for the individual who makes the tip.
Exactly, exactly. When you contact Crime Stoppers, you will remain anonymous. There's no ID, there's no court. No one's ever going to know that you contacted Crime Stoppers unless you say, hey, I'm the one that called Crime Stoppers and gave up that information. I don't think you're going to do that.
And we discussed earlier, the #1 goal of Crime Stoppers is to get the photographs, the pictures of the criminals or the fugitives. And the way that happens is in multiple ways. You have the digital billboards, the media via TV, and many other venues. So we'll talk about that next on the last segment. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines. My guest, Sid Newman, the Executive Director of Crime Stoppers. We'll be right back.
It's time now for Legal Lines Tips with your host, Locke Meredith.
Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I have a Legal Lines tip for you. Remember, knowledge is power. And I want you to know if you're injured and you have lost wages because of that injury, Louisiana law gives you a claim for that loss. Typically, it's going to require medical evidence from a medical doctor stating because of your injuries, you can't work. It's a pretty simple claim. If you had a job before the injury, doc says you can't work from the date of the accident, and 3 months later he says you can work, you can figure out what you've lost in wages. Circumstances occur, however, when the injury results in permanent physical and functional limitations. Now you can't do the job according to the doctor that you could do before the accident. So the question becomes, is there any work you can do, and what is the difference in wages? But the court doesn't just look at what you earned in the past, it also looks at your earning capacity. That is your ability to earn wages in the future, promotions, additional education. So my Legal Lines tip from me, Locke Meredith, to you is make sure you know your rights when you're presenting that lost wage claim.
This has been Legal Lines Tips.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, very pleased to have on the show today Sid Newman. He is the Executive Director of Crime Stoppers. Sid, let's dive back in. So just again, kind of summarize really quickly how this works.
Okay, when you contact Crime Stoppers, either call, text, or go to the website, you're going to be issued a code number. We take that information that you just provided to us, we investigate it. Your responsibility is to stay in touch with us. If that information proves to be correct, in which we can get an arrest and an indictment, recover some stolen property, confiscate some illegal narcotics, or it's a wanted fugitive, we're ready to pay you a cash reward.
That's simple.
That's simple. And we pay those cash rewards anonymously through a drive-through window of a bank by utilizing that code number.
In an envelope that just has a code number.
And it's tax-free. Where can you
amazing.
go and get, now I get audited every year, but I mean, where can you go and get something by just making a phone call, and that is tax-free?
And it is important for us to again point out that they need to stay in touch in the sense that because you don't know who they are, they're going to have to contact you guys via that anonymous code number and say, hey, was a person arrested, or did y'all recover the narcotics or the property or whatever to get the grand jury conviction. So they got to communicate after a certain period of time. They can check in. They can even provide more information.
Oh, we have a lot of callers that have collected numerous rewards. I guess it's the people that they're running with or the conversations that they hear.
Interesting. All right. Well, so let's talk about. We said it earlier, the way the message has gotten out and how Crime Stoppers is able to have the extraordinary success that they've had. It's the photographs, but explain to the various venues.
Well, thanks to the media, whether it's television, print media, or radio, we use that as our vehicle to make the public aware that this crime has occurred and these are the facts of the crime, or we are looking for this individual who committed a crime. And our biggest success is when we do have a photograph of a wanted suspect or really an unknown individual. We feature that individual, we ask them if you know who they are, you urge to contact Crime Stoppers, you will remain anonymous.
It's interesting too because the person who is the tip, provides the tip may not have seen the crime, knows nothing about it, but they see that person on the street and all of a sudden they're entitled to a reward.
Exactly, and they may not even know who that person is, but they say that's that individual. And probably the most successful aspect of the program is our fugitive section, in which an example on Channel 9, last year we featured 51 wanted fugitives. We apprehended 51 of the 51 based on tips people calling and telling us.
100%.
100%.
That's great. And so I know that they have the Crime of the Week, I think. Explain folks to what that is, because I think it's treated uniquely, is it not?
It is. It's a little different. The Crime of the Week is our more difficult cases in which the detective has hit a dead end. Somebody has that information, but they just haven't found that somebody. So they come to us and they ask us to do a reenactment or do some type of a segment to list the facts of the case. And what we do is we tell you a little bit about the facts of the case. We hit that by an interview with an investigator. We also have an interview with a family member. What this did to that family member, wow, what they're going through. And then we close it out with Matt Williams talking about crime affects all of us. And we're asking the public if they have any information that could help solve this crime to give us a call. Those are $2,500.
So that's a big pop right there.
For just, again, making that simple phone call. And we do the investigation, or we pass it on to the investigative source. So the information may be bad, but you know, it may be some good information.
Excellent. You know, I actually went to the website, I went to the Facebook, it actually had 1,600 likes. And I think obviously the more that this information gets out, there will be a whole lot more of those. But both the website and Facebook, you literally can just scroll, and even on Channel 9's website, you can scroll through photograph after photograph after photograph of folks.
Yes, Yeah, and a lot of times on the hits, a lot of them go through the back door side of it. They'll go through another site to come to our site. But yeah, we have it set up with WJBO radio, fugitives that we feature are mentioning on the radio station. Channel 9, their website, the same ones that we're featuring every week, they're on that website.
What a community service for those folks to do that.
Well, I mean, we couldn't afford it. I mean, my gosh, we could not afford that. And they were so kind in allowing us to do it at no charge to Crime Stoppers, trying to make the community a safer place for everybody.
Those are folks that are contributing to our society, as far as I'm concerned, our city and the safety of our city.
They are. They're very concerned.
And you would hope that all of the media, whether radio, print, or TV, et cetera, would participate. Guy, you sure hope so. So let's shift gears a little bit, because we've mentioned before, but extraordinarily successful. Y'all go into schools too.
We do. We have a Campus Crime Stoppers program in which we go to the different school campuses, and let's just say a student is being bullied. They may not want to tell a teacher or a principal, so they kind of keep it inside. We offer a program in which if they're being bullied, or if another student knows of someone being bullied, they can contact Crime Stoppers and pass that information on to us. We in turn are going to take that information, pass it on to school authorities, and they'll investigate it. If that information proves to be correct, then the person that contacted us will be eligible for a cash reward as well. Now, some people are going to say, well, why are you paying a student? Well, I don't know that I'm paying a student, because again, I don't know who these people are.
Right.
It could be their parent, or it could be their
teacher?
Adult sibling, yeah, or it could be a teacher. But we have found that we've got a lot of information on that. And one thing we have learned is bullying that goes undetected can lead to more severe things. I think Secret Service did a study, and every school shooting we had in this country was a result of an initial bullying episode.
That's a sad statistic. But boy, is it true.
It really
Columbine
is.
And all the rest are just examples of how that can lead to the greatest loss a human being can suffer. Let's talk about quickly just the successes. I mean, the number of arrests, property recovered, value of narcotics. It's amazing.
We're very proud of our stats. We have solved over 12,000 felony crimes in 32 years. We have apprehended over 11,000 felons in this community. We have paid out over $1.7 million in cash rewards. Again, I get audited quite regularly.
Can't quite figure that out, but
and they want to know where did the money go. And we have receipts from the little slip of paper with the code numbers on there. And we have recovered and stolen property and illegal narcotics over $30 million in this community.
it's incredible. So the value of providing a tip literally is saving millions of dollars. Sid, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for
Appreciate you
having
being on the show.
Thank you.
This is Locke Meredith, with the Executive Director of Crime Stoppers. Sid Newman, thank you for being with us.